Now, let's see what are HTML divs and span. Everything on a web page can be imagined to contain in a series of boxes. Our job as a web developer is to arrange these boxes so that the whole page looks nice on all the screens. Those boxes contain text, images, and everything else that we see on a web page. So, the name of these boxes are divisions and spans. Divs and spans don't do anything on their own, but we add things to them like text and images, and they let us position the text and images as we like. A good analogy of div and span is bags. Bags like handbags or backpacks are not very useful by themselves. No one would carry an empty bag around, right? They become useful when we store stuff in them. They help us keep things organized. That's how we like to think of divisions and spans. They are containers of the actual functional element of the web page. We will see how they work when we add them to our page. So there are many ways to break lines, and one of the easiest ones and probably the one you are going to use most is a div element. So to create a clear idea, let's add two text. This is my first line and this is my second line. Let's hit save and refresh, but both the lines came in the same line. Let's try wrapping them in two separate divs. Divs have an opening and a closing tag. Let's have two divs, and inside the first div I'm going to place the first sentence and the second sentence in the second div. Let's hit save and refresh. We can see that it did do a line break, and that's because div elements by default are full width, which means if you put another div, it can't go anywhere on this line, so it has to appear under it. Let's see them in the developer tools. So let's click inspect, and the developer tool opens up. Here, hovering on any tag, we can see the height and width that the element occupies. For example, this is the height and width of the body, and inside the body we can see two divs. This is the height and width of the first div, and this is the height and width of the second div. We can see that the width of the div element is the entire width of the screen. Hence, the second div is pushed down to it. So that is what a div element is. It is called a block element. So in HTML and CSS, what block elements means is that it is however tall it needs to be or however tall you specify it, and then it's it's the full width. That's what block elements means. The opposite of block element is an inline element, and it is not full width, it is only as tall and as wide it has to be, and that is called a span element. Let's try it out. Let's use a span over here and give a text. This is a span element. Hit save and refresh. Yeah, it came up and we can inspect it. Here we can see that the width of this span element is only the width of the text inside it. So for div, the width is the entire width of the screen, but for a span, it is only the width of the element inside it. So let's try adding one more span. Let's hit save and refresh. Yeah, we can see that the sentences are written in the same line. So this is the main difference between a span and a div. A span is an inline element, whereas a div is a block level element. You can also see that it has got its margin, border, padding, and all of these things. Well, that's what we are going to dig into in the next lesson, where we will talk about the CSS box model. So, see you there.